Caroline, would you like to go ahead and share with us about the Jane Austen Literacy Foundation that just launched in the United States? Because that's really exciting too.
Yes, so the Jane Austen Literacy Foundation is an organisation that I started in 2013. Also, that was sort of prompted by the 200-year anniversary of Pride and Prejudice. The celebrations around that anniversary really just brought in sharp focus for me. Jane has become this global phenomenon, and
Mm-hmm.
how many people around the world don't just read her work, but love her. And I think there's an opportunity there to sort of, extend Jane's legacy in a different way. And the
Mm-hmm.
Jane Austen Literacy Foundation, our mission is to connect through literacy, because we absolutely believe that literacy is the key to connecting with each other,
Mm-hmm.
connecting with the world around us, being able to function in life, and obviously also connecting to a world of imagination and possibilities, which is obviously what you
Yes.
find in the words of a book. And so we launched in 2014, and over the
Mm-hmm.
last 11 years we have grown into, I mean, it has far exceeded what I ever dreamt it would be. It really has. When we were planning for 2025, which is obviously a big year, Jane's 250th birthday, a few years ago, when we were saying, right, what's our big goal for 25? Let's have something, that would just
Yes.
be an amazing milestone. And opening the Jane Austen Literacy Foundation in the US, that was the goal that I put up there and thought, if we could do that, that would be amazing. I was a young girl growing up at Chawton House. The only overseas visitors really then were Americans. Jane Austen at
Mm-hmm.
that point, without the internet and movies and things, I mean, now you get visitors from literally all over the world.
Yes.
Whereas then it was mainly Americans. So I grew up talking to Americans about Jane Austen. The Jane Austen Society of the UK, their AGM every year was on in a big marquee or big tent.
Mm-hmm.
You don't use the word marquee, but a big tent, which would have 500 people sat in it with a stage.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to
Yeah.
happen on our lawn at Chawton House. So
Oh,
every year, all of these people would come, as I said, lots and lots of Americans. And I
oh,
was just so in awe of the adoration that they had for Jane.
right.
How just what I mean, and things like that. Those were the critical moments of my childhood that meant that I've known from a very young age how special Jane Austen is,
Mm-hmm.
even before I could appreciate it myself, if that makes sense. You know what I
It
mean?
does.
Far before I was
Yes.
reading it, far before I was old enough to do that, you could just tell, because, as I said, people would come from America for the day for that event and fly home again. And so I've always known that America gives us a huge opportunity to expand the impact of our literacy work, and that's the important bit. So I
Right.
am actually quite recently back from a trip to America. So I was in the US in October, where in Colonial Williamsburg, I was absolutely delighted. We did a big event there, and I was absolutely delighted to formally declare the Jane Austen Literacy Foundation North American Friends open. So if anybody would like to get involved in the Jane Austen Literacy Foundation North American Friends, you can find them online, and there's a volunteer page on the website that you can just put your details. One of the important bits is it means that people in America, you can tax
Yes.
relief from the donation. But it also just means that people can volunteer and get involved on a local basis. As I said, it'll go an enormous way to increasing our impact across the world and in the US.
That's wonderful. You're doing so much good work.
Jane would tell stories, and without any television or any entertainment at all, everybody sort
Yes.
of did something, didn't they, to entertain in the
Yes.
evening or in the afternoons or whatever. And she was encouraged, and her father would encourage her to read books in his library, and
Right.
and she was well educated and properly educated.
Right.
So that sort of encouragement of her to be her was
Mm-hmm.
there, which, as you say, is extraordinary. And when I think about the Jane Austen Literacy Foundation, sometimes that's sort of one of the things I think about is, I mean, there could be another Jane Austen out there today, but they're in
Mm-hmm.
India, in
Right.
an impoverished place, and they can't read and write. It
And
is
you,
it is as I said, and when we think about what actually made Jane so successful, and this is a phenomenon. I mean, there were so many. There were so many bits of luck in this story. You know what I mean? That had to come together, which starts right with being born. Being the
mm-hmm.
product of parents who absolutely believed in female education and empowerment, and women having a voice.
Absolutely. And you never know who is going to get that experience with an education, with literacy, who's going to get inspired and take their dreams or their imagination and create, like you said, the next Jane Austen novel, the next literary masterpiece. You never know. And
Yeah.
giving people that opportunity is a really beautiful, freeing gift, I think.
Absolutely. And of course, even for the people that don't go on to do that sort of thing, of course, literacy is,
It's huge.
literacy means that you can read a medicine bottle. It means that you can read a road sign.
Right.
It means you can, you know what I mean? It's
It
very,
means,
it's very fundamental, as well as being, of course, a route to
yes.
creativity.
It means you can have a job. It means you can support yourself. It
Yes.
means you can be independent, which is really important for people.
Yeah. And one of the most impactful moments I've ever had with the Jane Austen Literacy Foundation, I was in India, in
Hmm.
in a very sort of impoverished part of Delhi, looking at some of the work that we fund there.
Hmm.
And I was talking to the mother of a 4-year-old through an interpreter. And I
Hmm.
was talking to this mother, and I asked her what her hopes and dreams were for her child. And she said that her dream for her child is that they were educated enough that they would be able to get a job inside.
Oh my gosh.
And when you read, exactly. And that stops you in your tracks. That
It
stops you
sure
in your
does.
tracks when you realize that's the stakes that we're playing for.
Just
This
got chills.
isn't. Exactly. And that moment, I mean, that was in 2019, and that really was a moment of me knowing that what we are doing is exactly the right thing. I mean, when you
Yeah.
realize that that's the difference you're making,